Hello and welcome to a new episode of Decentra Talks. I am the host Ciro, and today I have with me my guest Mayra. Mayra, you can introduce yourself. That's probably better.
Thank you, Ciro. My name is Mayra Borreroo. I'm a PhD student of biochemistry and molecular biology. I'm doing these studies in this institute called IMO. It's quite recent. It's only 2 years old, um, but it belongs already to the Polish Academy of Science, which is quite good.
Could you please tell me a bit more about what you're doing? Because you're doing your PhD right now, is that right?
Yes.
Can you tell me what you're focusing on?
Yes, so I belong to the laboratory of mitochondrial biogenesis. So we study basically mitochondria and how mitochondria is related to several diseases, especially neurodegenerative diseases, which is mitochondria is very involved in this kind of diseases. So my project is based on the study of one complex, let's call it like this, is a group of proteins that are in the outer membrane of mitochondria, so it's in the external part. And this complex is like the entry gate, the main entry gate for most of the proteins that they need to go inside mitochondria, so mitochondria can perform its function correctly.
And just to kind of get a recap for myself and some of the audience members, what is the main role of the mitochondria? So everybody knows the joke, mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell.
Yes.
But what is its function in the body? What does it do?
So this is quite accurate that the mitochondria is the powerhouse, and it's basically where the ATP, I don't know if you remember something like this.
I do, yeah.
Okay.
ATP is I think it's the way energy, so it's the energy molecule, right?
Yes, it's like the currency, like the energy currency of the cell.
Mm-hmm.
So most of the functions of the cell, they need this ATP, right, to perform some activity, right?
Mm-hmm.
So where this ATP comes from? So it comes from mitochondria. So mitochondria is in charge of producing this ATP, and then it's exported to the rest of the cell, and then all the, let's say, enzymes and the rest of biochemistry reactions, they use this ATP so they can work normally. So that's why it's the powerhouse of the cell.
So I understand that you're doing some work on understanding neurological disorders. So I have a couple of questions that are just general questions about what do we currently know, like how far have we gotten to understanding these diseases, and where do you think we are in this process?
Well, we know many things about the human brain and about these neurological disorders, but still there are a lot more unknown, right? So let's say there are some facts that we already relate to these disorders. Like, for example, we know that these diseases are detrimental, right? It's getting worse and worse, and we have these structures in the cell, in the neurons, that are related to these diseases, and they are called beta amyloid structures. As these ones are the most common. It's like some proteins that they are not functioning properly. So let's say proteins, they usually need to be folded or unfolded, right?
Yes.
Normally to be functioning, and sometimes under some, in this case of these diseases, there is a malfunction, so they get folded in a wrong way. So they kind of form these structures that are very stable, and they're like very tight, let's say, stable and difficult to dissolve, and they kind of aggregate, let's say like this, they kind of aggregate, and then they are like causing problems in the cell.
Would you say it's like a buildup? So they're building up somewhere. Like, is it taking up space?
Yes. It's like they are occupying space, and there are some cellular quality control. Right, there are many controls in the cell, because this kind of processes, they happen all the time in a normal cell, in a healthy cell, right? Like there are I don't know, thousands of different procedures that are happening at the same time, so it's impossible that everything goes perfectly, right? So there is always this error, let's say this error that it's happening all the time in a normal cell. This is normal, but that's why we have this kind of quality control, and it helps us to, let's say, remove all of kinase structures that are not functioning well. Of this, maybe there are some proteins that were synthesized in a wrong way. Also, they get, deleted in somehow. But in the neurodegenerative diseases, what happened is like, the production of this proteins misfolding is higher, or also the quality control is not functioning well, right? Mm-hmm. So they are not getting removed as they should, right? Mitochondria is very important in this process of quality control. So in some of the proteins that are important in the mitochondria, also, if they are not functioning well, they can also form this kind of aggregates outside. So let's say the most known are the beta amyloids, but there are also another kind of proteins, like mitochondrial proteins, that are getting aggregated outside the mitochondria, and they're causing this kind of problems.
And when we look at somebody that has a disease, like a neurodegenerative disease, as time goes on, it gets progressively worse, like you said. Mm-hmm. So this margin, or this rate of error that exists in any normal, person without these issues, it keeps building up, or is it kind of a stable rate? Does this question make sense?
I don't know if I will answer this question, but it's like, is as these processes are, the error is happening in a normal cell, when it sometimes in this kind of diseases, as I said, the production of these species are so high that they can infect other cells, mm-hmm. right? So they are kind of exporting this kind of structures, and they are like, let's say, contaminating other neurons that are around, and then it is kind of spreading. Mm-hmm. That's why it's detrimental, because it started in some point, and then it gets like growing and growing.
I see it. Mm-hmm. I see now. Because I know you said earlier that there's multiple different ways that this could start happening. So one way is through the mitochondria, mm-hmm. and there's other issues that maybe what is it called when you when you pass it down to your children. Mm-hmm. Are we any closer to finding a solution to these problems, and maybe if not removing the problem completely, but at least slowing down the rate at which it happens?
This is very good question, and for sure with we've been science, right? The scientists that we are working on this for already a couple of decades, and trying to find some kind of treatment for this kind of diseases, but it's not easy. It's not easy, and to be honest, I heard recently about one drug that at this moment I don't remember, that was actually approved before for the FDA, but after some time they noticed that the patients were getting some kind of swelling in the brain. Mm-hmm. And then it received a lot of critiques about this, and this was the best, out of all the drugs that have been, tested, this has been like the best. I know about other treatment that it recently has been, let's say, it's kind of popular in China. I think it's about microbiome, but I don't have like a lot of information about it because I don't work with microbiomes. But it's quite popular there. It seems it's more related to like natural treatment because this is found in this seaweed. So like Asian culture, they use like a lot of natural, like metabolites, natural products to treat different diseases. Apparently, it's kind of working, but I don't have a lot of information about this. So I heard something related to these, and it seems it's popular that, but I haven't read much about this. So I think it's very tough. Scientists have been working on this for many years, and still we don't have a treatment or cure for this.
I've seen it, and I personally haven't had any family members that suffered from this issue, but I've seen sort of in TV people represent how it happens and what is going on with this person. Like they progressively forget things and don't know, like they don't know information about themselves, can't keep time. I have a question. Obviously, I don't think, like, you might not be able to answer it, but if you do have any information, it would be enlightening. With all the data that we have, is this problem becoming more common? Neurodegenerative diseases.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure about this. It might be. I think maybe I heard something like this because it's not only related. There are many factors. So we have the genetic factor, as you said, the information that is passed, through from the parents to the kids. So this is one factor, but there are also factors as the environment, right? The lifestyle. So it could happen, but it's not related maybe to the genetics itself, but probably to the lifestyle, how people how they eat, right? If they are like having a healthy diet or if they are exercising, like you don't think this could affect that much in this kind of diseases, but it actually does. It does. So maybe it could happen.
I would also, like, just a theory, but people do live longer now, so it is something that affects older people usually.
Yes, it's related to aging. This, as I said, this formation of these kind of structures in the cells, they are also related to the aging process. So that's why it's very common, like to find like the dementia or the first symptoms, let's say, of the diseases in people that is already old. Maybe there is a relationship, like a relation between these, because people is living longer, and maybe that's why it could be. Yes.
Yeah, because I've read, and I like to look at like the news, so I see these types of articles like, oh, we have an increase in these types of disorders, but for the last 100 years the lifespan has nearly doubled in the majority of the world, so most people never got to see those symptoms come up because they never lived to the point where this happens. This leads me to another thought. Is this something, so let's say I'm born, is this issue that causes dementia in the long term, is it something I'm born with and it's like building up as I age, or is it something that when you age to a certain point, like some things break and they just stop functioning properly, and then it happens like quickly instead of like on a long throughout the lifespan?
Yes, this is a very good question. Everyone is so different, right? So it's and we have, as I said, many factors that influences in here. So for sure, genetics is one of the factors, but it gives you like the risk. So if you have um, like in your DNA, you have this um, you have the genes that are maybe involved, right, or somehow related to the formation or to be prone to in the future develop some kind of disease like this. uh, yeah, so you have a higher risk, right, than another person that doesn't have it. But as I said, this is just one of the factors. There are other factors, right, like the environmental, as I said, or yes, the lifestyle that you have. So it's, I think it's like this for not only for this kind of diseases, but for every kind of disease, like cancer. I think it's exactly the same. You have these genes, and if you, of course, if you have family that they had these kind of these kind of diseases, then you have the risk. You have a higher risk. But it's still your lifestyle is actually even affecting even more.
I would tend to agree with that, because when we put our bodies through things that are obviously like destructive, and we do this over such a long period of time, I think people don't realize how much their lifestyles affects their health. Because when you do it once, it's fine, and you do it for 10 years, it's fine. But the longer you do it, you're building this risk up, and you're making it worse and worse. The only type of dementia I actually ever looked at is alcohol cause. So alcohol can cause this in people if they drink so much. Like with the lifelong issues with alcoholism, they end up going into this issue in themselves. So yeah, there's something to the health aspect. I would hope that people now are able to take care of their health better. I feel like we have more choices, and people can make the right choices, but we also have a lot of bad choices to make now as well. How about, I'll ask you a bit about, so you're studying, like I said, the mitochondria and how it affects neurological diseases. So what is the role in the mitochondria that causes these diseases to develop?
Yes, we are studying that actually. There are many processes that mitochondria controls, and if some process goes wrong, then it can cause a big mess, right? So there is already, we know that some malfunction if several of the complexes, there are several complexes inside of mitochondria that are related to the production of the ATP, and these complexes are we call it the transport electron chain, right? So it's like a sequence of different proteins or complexes of proteins, and they are like, the electrons are like going through all of these complexes, and at the end it is forming water and it's forming ATP, right? So if something goes wrong in this chain, so at the end we cannot produce ATP, right? Or if something goes wrong also in this chain, there is a leak of electrons, right? As I said, there is like is a chain of electrons that are passing through all of these proteins. So if there is a leak of electrons, then it causes a mess, because electrons are super reactive. So it can find, for example, oxygen that is around from water that is around, and then it forms this species that we call ROS, which stands for reactive oxygen species. So when ROS are formed, then it's really messy, because it can react with everything. So it can go against the proteins, against membranes, lipids, whatever, and it basically destroys, destroys everything. It's like it's really messy. We call it oxidative stress.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why mitochondria is very important. And if something goes wrong in this part of the ATP production, it's not only that the cell doesn't have enough ATP. It's not just that. It's that there is a lot of mess causing inflammation, causing a lot of stress to the cell, and eventually the death of the cell. So we call it apoptosis or necrosis, right? So it's causing, the death of the cell. This is involved not only neurodegenerative diseases, I think is very common, but also in many other diseases. Like people, I think, is not aware of how important the mitochondria is for the well functioning of the cell.
So because, and I want to recap to make sure that I understood this correctly, because the mitochondria is processing these electrons in order to produce energy, which in the form of ATP and water. If there's an issue at any point in this chain, these electrons escape, and they are, in chemistry, we have molecules, and we have molecules. They're receptive to an electron, so they want to have an extra electron, and now there's this new molecule that you did not intend to have in the body, and it causes issues, and it's hard to remove. I've heard a lot about oxidative stress, and people there's a lot of products around that are supposed to help with that. Is there any validity to this? Like, does eating certain foods or taking certain plants help you with removing this stress?
Yes, actually, yes. There are like antioxidants. We know them like this.
Like blueberries, I think.
Yes, like antioxidants. So it's present in fruits like these red fruits, right? Like blueberries, and also I think in grapes also. Yes, there are many molecules that we already know that they can work as an antioxidant. So basically, the antioxidant what does is kind of stop this kind of reactive reactions, right? So as I said, this rose, this species, so they have an extra electron, very good for your chemistry class. So they have this extra electron that make this molecule very reactive. So what the antioxidant does is to neutralize this reaction. So when they interact, right, it react with this reactive species, it neutralizes, right? Neutralizes. So I think vitamin C is also very, very known antioxidant. In the red wine, we have antioxidants, so it's healthy to drink one glass.
That's very interesting because so personally, my family comes from a mountain area, and they drink a lot of wine, and they live very long. And this is very common across the world. Like, the longest living people are usually in mountain areas, and they drink a lot of red wine. So probably the lack of all the chemicals from civilized society, as well as eating a lot of fruits and drinking a lot of wine. Well, not too much, but a little bit. It does help extend the lifespan. I've recently been getting into eating fruits now. So I used to eat like a lot of cake, and I've taken a big pause on that, and I feel better. I feel more active, more alert, and it's nice. It really is nice. We kind of lost touch with that, just eating a fruit, eating vegetables. Everything now is very processed. And to go back to the mitochondria, and this is I guess a bit more of a general question. So the body is this system that takes in things and keeps itself alive and going. And there's so many little pieces that are all moving together. With the mitochondria, we spoke a bit earlier about how it is only ever passed down from the female to both sexes, and it's always the female. What how does that happen, and why is it like that?
Yes. So we only get the mitochondria from our mother, basically because both cells, let's say the eggs and the sperm, they both have mitochondria, but the thing is that the sperm it only has mitochondria in the tail, right? So it allows to move the movement of the tail.
Oh, because it's giving
it's like
it the energy.
Exactly.
That's interesting.
Exactly.
Oh, that's really interesting.
So in the head, there is the DNA, right? The genetic, the information, and the tail, it has the mitochondria that allows it to move. So when the zygote is formed, yes, the tail get removed, right? So that's why only we get the mitochondria from our mother. That's why. So that's why many mitochondrial diseases, we only have the risk if our mom, from her side, it's present this DNA, let's say, information of some kind of diseases, and it's transmitted only from the mother side and not from the father.
That makes a lot of sense. And this is less to do with the human body and more to do with just the history of the mitochondria. So from my understanding, the mitochondria kind of made a deal with like single-celled organisms, and they kind of merged together. They were both separate entities. And have you studied any of this?
Yes, there is a theory, because we don't know actually. We don't know where. I mean, we have some hypotheses, right? Like how it was formed, how the eukaryotic cell was formed. Because it's very interesting, because mitochondria has its own DNA. So this is why mitochondria is so interesting. Like where the mitochondria took this DNA from, and that's why this theory of there was some kind of fusion, right, between two different organisms. So it's like a bigger organism like took over another one that has their own DNA, right, like they say mitochondria, and that's how it was formed, the eukaryotic cell. But this is yes, a hypothesis, because
It's too far away to look back.
yes. We still don't know, and also because the DNA that is inside the mitochondria is circular, so it's not like the nucleic DNA that we have, in the nucleus, but this one is circular. So it's like a bacteria. Like bacteria, they have the same type of DNA. It's just circular. That's why we think, maybe there was some
Maybe it was its own life form.
Yes. And there is a symbiosis, right? Like, the organism that was phagocyted, was took over. So it was like functioning in some way that it was beneficial for the bigger one, right? For the rest. And they became in some sort of agreement, and they worked.
Yeah, that's the theory that I read about, and it sounds good. So the theory I read about is the mitochondria provides the energy, and larger cells provide protection. But that's a very simple understanding of this. I wanted to ask about, since only the mother ever passes down the mitochondria to the children, is the mitochondria DNA subject to the process of like natural selection, evolution? Is it changing constantly, or is it more stable? Like does it change less, I guess, over time?
This is very good question. Um, because I think natural selection affects the whole organism, right? Not only the genetic information, but I think it's also affecting um, yes the information in the mitochondria, because as you said, also passed through through the generations. So anyways, this natural selection is in some point is also working on this, right? So just the, let's say, the best features are passed through the generations. I think yes, it's also affected.
Do you see mitochondria out in the wild by itself, like as a single form, without anything on top of it, without like it being part of another structure?
um, there are some kind of structures, or they interact. Everything is interacting with everything, right? In the cell. So it's like, for example, the ER is also in communication with the mitochondria, and mitochondria are also interacting between themselves. So sometimes they're like fusioning, like creating, like from two mitochondria, they're like creating one bigger, or like this, or fission. So they are like getting separated also. Also interacting with the ER, with the ribosomes that are around, right? So it's yeah, it's like big.
It's a very chaotic mess.
It's chaotic.
Um, from your understanding, what are some things that people can do to reduce the risk of neurodegenerative diseases caused by the mitochondria? Can you sort of prevent this, or like, are there some lifestyle choices that you can make that could reduce the possibility of this happening?
Yes, this is a very good question, because it's not just about the mitochondria, but in general, this neurodegeneration. I think, as we talk about the lifestyle, so this is super important. So if you keep a good diet, if you keep exercising, also I read that you can kind of activate different parts of the brain, let's say. So your brain is constantly like more, how do you say this, like robust. Like if it is used to work, like in different parts of the brain are used to work, then it's gonna be more difficult to let's say, to fail and start to generate this kind of a species. So I think yeah, doing different activities, like for example, you can learn different languages, right? This is one part, so it activates a specific part of your brain. But also you can, like, music, like maybe play an instrument, right? Or listening to different kind of music. And what else, like maybe doing how do you say, the
Crosswords, yeah.
yes, also it's I think everything helps. And exercising is really important. And also the food that you consume, because you know that the whole the brain takes like 20% of the energy that your body needs. So it's like mostly is glucose what the brain needs for the function. And yes, what is the source of this glucose, right? So it's a good source or not, or yes. So it's important, like your lifestyle is defining how your life is gonna be, like in the next decades.
When I heard that people who are, or they already have the neurodegenerative disease, even people that are very deep into it and they hardly can recognize themselves or anything else, music and art triggers memories, like despite all of the difficulties that they were going through and how they might not even be able to recognize their children or their family. Listening to a song will make them sort of go back to an earlier time. Um, why and why what makes that happen? Why is music so effective in helping people kind of get a moment back?
But this is a very difficult question for me. um, it's very interesting, yes. But I think, as I said, every part of the brain is in charge of different functions, right? So let's say music is in one part, right? And I don't know, like other kind of memories are in another part. I'm not sure, but maybe it depends on what part of the brain is it has the most damage, right? Because as I said, this kind of diseases start in one part, and then it's like spreading and taking over different regions of the brain. So maybe, I'm not sure, I'm like maybe guessing here, but maybe it has something to be with this. But yeah, I'm not sure. It's very interesting. It's like we don't. I mean, we know a lot about the biochemistry of the brain. I mean, about neurotransmitters and how the cells, the neurons work, whatever. Still, there are many things that we don't know. But what is really, really for us is like black magic. Is like consciousness. It's something that so far it doesn't have any scientific explanation. So
that's why it's so fun, though. I like thinking. I like thinking about it as consciousness is everywhere, and we're just kind of receiving it, like we're an antenna. And I've heard this example before, and it resonates with me. This is very, very off topic, probably, but this conversation about the different areas of the brain being responsible for different things. I've experienced synesthesia. So there are certain things that you could do to cause your brain to associate different senses and connect them together. So like you're hearing music, but you can taste it, or you're seeing art and you can hear it.
Wow.
You could do this by taking mushrooms and different types of compounds. I wonder if that, because what it does is it induces more connections in the brain. So different parts start connecting and interacting. I wonder if that could possibly help somebody in a state where different parts of their brain are kind of like dying off and not connecting. But yeah, there's research being done on that, and it's just very interesting. What is something that you wish people understood about the mitochondria, like just a common person?
I would like people would attribute to mitochondria the fact that they can live. It's like we move because of mitochondria. It's like people maybe they don't know, they don't recognize how important it is. And because, as I said, they are producing the currency of energy for everything that is happening in our body. So yeah, I would like people would know this at least. But I mean, you know, you remember your classes of biology, but many people don't remember this. So I found people that they ask me what I do, and I said, yeah, I'm studying mitochondria, and they're like, what is this? Yeah, so at least a little bit of yes.
I think
gratitude.
I think people like to learn on their own terms, and during like the school systems that we have, you are forced to sit down with 40 kids, and even though the topics are like extremely interesting. So I studied my high school time in North Africa, and we do our school system, we specialize in high school instead of like most people have like the same program up until they're in university and then they choose what to study. So we do middle school, it's the same program, and then the first year of high school you choose science or literature, and then the next year you choose biology or math or any like like IT stuff. So I chose science, biology, and biology for my third year, and we had a pretty intensive course on a lot of this stuff. So I remember it because I kind of chose to do that. I hated my teachers. It was sometimes it would be miserable, but the topics they're very fun, and I think that mediums like podcasts and articles and YouTube videos are a better educational tool for most people because they can choose to listen. And to go back to how important the mitochondria is for life, we have all of this. The body's like a complex system made of many very small complex systems, but all of them require energy. So you can't have any of it without that part that produces it.
Exactly. So I think people remember the nucleus, right? It's like when they think about cell, they think DNA and nucleus, like it's so important. But actually, I found more fascinating mitochondria, to be honest. I mean, yeah, DNA, genetics in general is also fascinating. But yeah, people underestimate mitochondria. I think.
So mitochondria has its own DNA. And from my memory, DNA is used to produce proteins.
Yes.
So it has this circular DNA. What is it responsible for? Can we talk a bit about the whole system, like the pieces?
Yeah. So there are around 1,000 proteins that, or maybe more, that are working in mitochondria. But most of these proteins, they need to be imported from the nucleus, like from the cytosol, because yes, mitochondria has their own DNA, but this DNA is only encoding very limited number of proteins. So I think it's around 14 or 18, I don't remember exactly, but it's a small amount of proteins that are synthesized inside mitochondria. So most of the proteins, they need to be imported from outside. But I think the ones that are imported inside are super important, and is also a topic that is not very well studied. I heard like some kind of some conferences in the field that they are interested in this DNA that is inside the mitochondria, because there are not many information about this and about how to modify it, because now we know how to modify the nucleus DNA, right? It's like there are many tools that we use to modify it, but not the mitochondrial one. It's so difficult to get into this, because you need to go through the membranes of the mitochondria, and they reach this DNA and then kind of manipulate it. So nowadays they are working on this, but this is very new. It's like
the difficulty comes from the fact that it's already in another cell. So if you're trying to send something in, it has to interact with everything there, and then also get into the and it only produces 14 to 18 of its own proteins.
Yeah, I may need to check it again, but it's a small number of proteins.
And those are all involved in the steps to produce the ATP and
yes.
Is that the only functionality it has, or does it do other things as well?
The DNA?
Yes.
The mitochondrial DNA? As I said, there are many things that we don't know about this one. Is very fresh. I mean, it's very fresh because it's difficult to study, right? But I think nowadays we have many tools in my molecular biology that allows us to do pretty cool experiments, and I think we're getting there. Like, get to know what is this, why, how it works, how you can eventually modify it. Like, it's very, very interesting.
We're doing a lot more of this genetic manipulation now. It's becoming common. You can even get a kit and do it on yourself. Like, you can make your skin glow in the dark. You can actually do this now. It's very funny. I want to ask you some general questions about your life and what led you to choose the path that you've taken. How did you get into biochemistry? Why did you choose that, and why did you specialize in the mitochondria?
I don't know. It's like, it's funny that I mean, when I was in middle school, in high school, I mean, I studied in a public school, right, in Colombia. So public education, like basic education, is not very good. It's not the best in Colombia. Uh, but I kind of, I was uh, fascinated about science in general, not only chemistry, because I am a chemist actually, this is my background, but I was fascinated with biology, with math, with physics. So I thought, when I needed to decide what to study, and my parents were, they were like, they are, and they are they didn't go to college, they didn't go to university, they almost barely finished primary or middle school. So for them, like, science is, I don't know, they kind of don't understand very well what is this. So they were suggesting some kind of, yeah, like, why you don't go to the, I don't know, to study something about finances or something like this. It's like more common, right? And you will get like stability, right? And but I don't know. I For me, this was never an option, because for me it was boring. Like, everything else was just boring. So for me, yeah, science was so unknown, and the information that I got from school was also limited. So I was like, I was interested in this, and I was like, okay, I there are a lot of things I don't know about this, so maybe if I want to study something, so I will go deeper in something, it will be like something about this, because it's interesting, it's like, it's exciting. And I think also, because I don't want to follow like the group, right? And everyone else wanted to study something like, I don't know, like psychology, or maybe this kind of finances or something, and nobody says, okay, I want to go to science. So maybe also this was another reason. Okay, I want to do something that not everyone does it. And then I ended up in chemistry as my career, and I love it. But it was also, I guess, luck that, okay, I could go there, but maybe I didn't like it, right? It's like, it could happen, but in my case, I love it. And then by the end of the career of my bachelor's, I was learning about biochemistry as a part of my program, and I found it so hard. It was very hard for me. There was so many information, and I needed to analyze so many processes that were happening at the same time. So it was very challenging for me. So yes, I like this kind of challenges, right? So that's why I decided, okay, it was also very interesting for me. So I decided to go into this biochemistry way. So my project of my bachelor, I actually did it in biochemistry and also related to mitochondria. Then I did my master's that was also related to mitochondria, and then I'm here doing PhD in a in a lab that is related to mitochondria. Maybe now I am considering maybe studying maybe something a little bit different for like in a postdoc or something, like after my PhD maybe I could do something like this. um, But yeah, I don't know. It's a mix.
You strike me as a lifelong student. I don't think you're ever going to stop studying. What do you want to do next? If you had to, like, what are some fields that are interesting to you?
But to be honest, I was thinking, okay, maybe I should change the line. But I was also very interested in aging, and aging is related to mitochondria like a lot. So it's funny, but because it really is very interesting for me.
Please go and do some work on aging so you can stop it and make our lives a bit longer.
It's funny that we can. I mean, there are already many studies. There are hundreds of studies of aging, and we found many factors that can increase the lifespan. But then I'm thinking, uh, if we finally could do it, would we do it? Like,
Yes.
you think so?
Yes.
Because
We're
this is
already
an
doing
ethics. This is about this is an ethic question, because the fact that you can modify your DNA, you want to do it. The fact that you want to live longer, you actually want to do it.
So there's a huge balance between living longer and like living a good life for a long time. So I think the problem with aging right now is that there are ways to actually slow down aging. So there's a medication that's used for diabetes, and they started trialing it out on rats, and they noticed that the rats that took the medication lived twice as long as a regular rat. And people are now also experimenting with this, like humans are taking it and they're buying. There's a black market for it. There is like different types of injections, so hydration injections people take. You could do that through exercise. Exercise increases your lifespan. So if you can have, what I would see as a problem is if we can increase our lifespan, but people keep on living a negative lifestyle, similar to the ones that we have now. Because then I would see people, the fear of death is going to keep people trying to live longer. But the fact that they're not willing to live a lifestyle that is positive in terms of your health and taking care of yourself, I feel like people would get stuck in this loop of they want to keep going, but their body is falling apart and their mind is falling apart. So it's a huge question, but I feel people would do it. Would you expand your lifespan?
But it depends. It depends on how long.
How long would you
yes,
go?
yes, exactly. It's like, I mean, I don't know. Personally, I think life is good, right?
I love it.
You love it.
I love it. You can make it good. You just have to work on it.
Yeah, but maybe I was thinking more about about eternal youth, something like this, like stop aging like at all, something like very, like drastical. How do you say, like
Just a full stop.
Yes,
Like let's say 35 and that's it.
Yes,
you're
something like this.
Yeah.
So in this case, I think this is a big ethical question. Like, would we do something like this? Because increase the lifespan, maybe, I don't know, some years more. Why not? Life is good, right? And if you as you said, if you have a good lifestyle and good conditions of life, why not? But let's say stopping aging, like,
I don't think I would want to stop aging because I want to experience aging. I think there's benefits to it. People that are older report being happier in general. Also, it's kind of part of the human experience, right? Like it's part of the life experience. If you pause yourself and you're disconnecting yourself from your nature. The way I would see this working is that you go through your lifespan and then you upload your consciousness, or you take your brain and you sort of suspend it somewhere and keep it alive, and that's where I think we're going to go. I'm pretty confident that that's where we're going with the technological advancements that we've been doing. Seeing AI and engineering I'm a software engineer by trade, so I'm like plugged into this stuff a lot. AI now can pass medical examinations. Like they can get their they can become a medical doctor. They can tell what's wrong with you, and we're going to this place where, with our technology, we're going to be able to really expand how fast we develop. So I give it like 50 years. We're all living in computers. Then you have Zuckerberg with the metaverse. You're like you're still like old, but you put on the thing, and now you're young again.
Oh my God, I see this and I don't like this picture.
What do you not like about it?
I don't know. It's just unnatural. I know it's like right.
I agree. I agree. The metaverse makes me very uncomfortable. The Zuckerberg stuff. I feel like they're very smart people. They're good engineers, but they're flawed people. So if we give somebody control over this like a new world where we live in their world and they can just like kind of control our senses, it doesn't seem it doesn't seem right, and it seems like a huge power imbalance and very risky. People are chaotic.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's funny that we also were thinking about how I use this coding, right? Like some software I use for my work, but I hate it. This like technology, this kind of technology, it makes me a bit uncomfortable, let's say, because of the same. I feel it's not natural. It's like
I like to. We're going into some weird topics. Whenever you wanna, I'm conscious of your time, so whenever you feel like you're done, we could stop. But
okay.
I see people as sort of cells, neurons, and we all kind of connect to make this next creature. And just like the cells in your body, they're all doing their own thing. They're all single life forms that form into a larger life form. I think that's what technology is. We are building this next type of life, and we're the cells of it. We're the mitochondria, we're the neurons, we're everything. So it's the next thing, and if we stop it, is that right? Does that make sense? Could you view yourself as part of a bigger life organism?
Definitely, yes. I think yes. I'm okay. Maybe this is going a bit off, but I do believe, as you said, maybe consciousness is something that comes to us. I mean, is everywhere. Is everywhere, and we are some kind of vehicles, right? So I do believe we are small part of this big conscious, right? That is involving everything around us, like the universe itself, right? So yes, I do believe in that. It makes sense.
I think there's one last thing that I kind of wanted to talk about. I talked to you about this the first time we met, is that computers and technology is sort of based on humans. We look at our own bodies and our own systems and we replicate them into machines. Like a hard drive is your memory, a random access is your like short-term memory. All of these different outputs are your senses, and we gotten really good at like taking ourselves and other life forms and copying them into these machines. Could you ever, last question, could you ever think of machines as living creatures?
No, I don't think so, because I mean, from the biology point of view, can they? This is a big question. Can they reproduce? I mean,
I think at some point, yes.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
Because we have factories
that make
machines.
Yes, wow. This is but from other side, about the consciousness, I think this is what make us humans, right? So about humans, I would think they are not. About living creatures, yes, as you said, they can reproduce. So this is interesting. But we also cannot define, for example, viruses.
That is a very so they have DNA, is that right? Or is it
RNA,
like
yes, or
RNA?
DNA also, yeah, they can have.
Okay, but they don't have the structures around them that build the life form, so they just kind
They
of
need a host.
they need a
Yes.
host.
Yes, but it's like we don't consider them like living things, right? But there are people that actually think it's controversial, right? Because they can reproduce. They can reproduce.
What would what I would define life as is something that is able to make its own decisions. So if you're able to make your own decisions in some way, you are living, because you have this will, you have the ability to act, and that's what I define as life.
But
something that can act.
Would you say like animals, they make their own decisions?
Yes. I have pets, so at some point it was very difficult for me to think of animals, like to have that empathy towards an animal. I had rats at a certain point. They're extremely smart. They clean each other. They take care of each other when they're sick. They interact with their environment in very complex ways. They're very difficult to catch and trap. So they can make calculated decisions. One thing that they do when they're in groups is if they have a sick rat or a rat that's not genetically great, like an albino, that would be the rat that tests the food out. So they give it food that they find to check if it's poison. Okay. And then the rat that is weaker eats the food, and if it's good, the rest will eat. If it's not, they won't eat. So they're able to make these very complex decisions and trades. And then even if you move back down to the like single-celled organism, they're taking things from their environment and they're producing new things. So they're acting seemingly like without somebody controlling or something controlling them.
But what about plants? Because plants are living things.
Yes, right? They can also make decisions. So I read a couple. I'm really interested in mushrooms, which are not plants, but what they do is they will go into the dirt and the mycelium, not the actual like fruit of the mushroom. It will connect to a tree, and it will trade with the tree resources. Like the tree is making a conscious decision to send certain resources to the mushroom, and there's an exchange there. Okay. If you cut down certain plants, they'll produce like certain smells that'll change the other plants, like make them shorter or smaller. There's a tree that if there's fires around, this thing changes to like a kind of a spike. It'll roll up, so it doesn't. It reduces its surface area. Okay. So yeah, you would consider them like actors.
It's a very difficult question actually, because from what point it's some behavior, like it's being inherited from evolution, right? Some kind of survival instinct, and from what point it becomes being consciousness. Like it's really hard.
It's hard because we can't see. I can't see your conscious, or I can't tell if your people had to argue about this for decades. Like, are you? There's this philosophy called solipsism, where the philosophy is that there is no one else except me. Everything is just made in my brain, so I am the only living thing. Everything else is fake. This is a philosophy, and it's like a very popular way of thinking. People might not say it by its name or like talk about it, but a lot of people think this way. I think that's how people make decisions to hurt others so easily, is because they don't view other people as life. They view themselves only as life, because you can't experience someone else's consciousness. So, but you can. I think you can measure consciousness. You can measure it by doing things and seeing if there's a response.
Interesting. So if there is response, it means there is consciousness.
if you take a rock, like maybe smashing it, like, but then you're like, I don't think that that's testing it. That's like purposefully destroying it. But like if I take this plant and I move it over to there, some of the leaves are going to fall off, but the middle is going to stay alive because it'll start dropping the most useless pieces to preserve the life of the whole organism. So it's making a conscious decision, in my opinion, to drop this like unnecessary weight to keep itself alive.
I think it makes kind of sense. Also, it could exist more than, I mean, different levels of consciousness, right? I mean, it's different one plant from a cat, right? And different a cat from humans. So yeah, I think it could be consciousness, but in different levels.
Yeah, if we think about ourselves as receptors or vehicles of consciousness, maybe the complexity of the organism dictates how much consciousness you have. Okay. So when you look at like a single-celled organism, it's still acting in the world and doing things, but it's very simple. It does very, very simple things. Like they might be extremely complicated at that because it's like everything's so complex, but it only can do certain amounts of things. But the more tools that you have as a body, the more you're able to express this consciousness.
So in this matter, in this case, would you think a robot, it has consciousness or not?
It has a basic form of consciousness because it's able to respond. Like you can, there's input output. Like even this has some sort of consciousness. Okay. Because it's storing it. Like maybe it's my consciousness that I put into it. Okay. Maybe it's a human. Like we take our consciousness and we put it into this machine, right? We say if this, do this. If that, that's my consciousness in there. Maybe we're trapping our consciousness into the machine. Ooh. Yeah, this is a very tough subject. All of it is. There's no scientific evidence to support anything I'm saying.
No, it's very nice that this is what made us humans so interesting. We can just do, philosophy about everything. This is what makes us different from other animals.
Have you ever seen the elephant that draws stuff?
I think, yes, I saw maybe some video.
Have you ever seen dolphins?
No, never.
It's probably really bad for us to hold them in these aquariums. It's probably horrible for them, but the intelligence of the dolphin, you could tell this thing is on another level. It is able to wave at you. It does tricks.
Okay.
They play. They throw a bowl at you. They have intense consciousness. It's strange. But that's kind of what makes life beautiful, being able to talk about, think about this stuff. And it helps, process it. There's so much going on. You just throw a person in the middle of nowhere. There's no society. What do you think is going to happen? What are the thoughts?
What are the thoughts? Mm-hmm. What do you mean? If you take someone...
You take them out of culture. You throw them in some, island as a baby before they get to interact. What's going to happen with them?
Oof. Crazy.
They have to pick the pieces up. There's no going to school and figuring out what your body's doing, or math, or you got to pick up the pieces by yourself all over again. It's very, very...
But I would think it would happen because when we're kids, we just mimic, right? We just mimic behavior. And as they don't have anyone, let's say, to mimic, I think they will start, this is for part of the human nature, start mimicking what they see. So probably...
Animals.
Yes, yeah. Yes. They would
I think there's a couple of people so a couple of people were lost in forests, kids, and then they get raised by animals. There's cases of this happening, and they see a reduction in the area of the brain that's involved in language, in logic, and they're more physical. They become more animalistic, and, quote unquote, just so people don't think anything weird. like a lot of our consciousness and what we consider to be special about humans is special about the human like kind, not the individual human. If you take us and throw us somewhere, like, useless.
Yes, it's useless. Yeah, I think, yeah, I think yes, the individual by itself, it's very interesting because it kind of needs to feel part of something, right? It's not, yeah, it's not just by himself, by itself. No, it needs to be part. It needs to feel part.
It needs
of
to be
something.
part of a bigger organism.
Yes,
It's like
yes.
organisms all the way down.
Yeah, but I think it's kind of the same maybe for also for animals, right? If they are raised maybe as part of another different kind of group, maybe they grow up also thinking they are different.
Dogs do
Yes,
that. Dogs
yes,
and
yes.
cats, when you have like they get weird. Like they act differently than if you just
Yes.
had a dog or just had a cat.
And it's different, like for example the dogs that the domestic ones,
Hmm.
right? They act very different from the um, the original one, right? The wild one. So you can see how they adopt some kind of human behaviors. This is, yeah, very interesting.
It's an exchange of consciousness.
Yes.
Like we're giving them some of our consciousness.
Yes.
They can yeah, this observing that we
Mhm.
do, when we see something else, we kind of learn from it and we act part of it. That's where people should be, like, together. It's like put them together, they'll do great things. I'm happy that you're doing the work that you're doing, because I feel like for me one of the biggest I have like a couple things that just make me like shiver. One is prison, like solitary confinement. Another one is dementia and Alzheimer's. Like it makes me, because it's like it's difficult not to know what's going around you. Like you're just kind of in this random place where you don't know anything, and
Yes.
it's yikes.
It's crazy.
It
Yes,
is.
yes. It's super scary. Wow. Yes. If you have seen some movies about
Yeah,
Alzheimer.
yeah. It was giving me like a pit in my stomach. I feel
Uh,
I know people that have had family that have experienced this, and it's brutal. So very important work you're doing.
That's why we try to believe somehow it's helping.
And I think to extract a great thing from this is gratitude for women and mothers
Yes.
for giving us life. And
Exactly. Yes.
thank you for being on this. I've learned a lot. I hope people listening have also learned something. I appreciate it. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next one. Invest smarter, not harder. Ricochet Exchange helps you dollar cost average into cryptocurrencies, including ETH and Bitcoin. By dollar cost averaging, you increase your potential returns and reduce market volatility. It is an easy way to invest, and it is mostly automated. All you need is a cryptocurrency wallet like MetaMask and Coinbase, and you can connect to Ricochet Exchange. The links will be in the description. You can start a stream to any of the tokens. If you need support or help, you can contact me directly, and my links will be in the description. Thank you for listening, guys, and we'll see you in the next one.